Let me see. I was checking out your profile online. They were saying that you did you get a chance to work with National Geographic? Is that true?
So when I was here after I graduated from NYU and I stayed here for a little bit, I worked as an editor there, as an apprentice editor, and then an assistant editor, and then a sound editor. Yeah. So that was, I think, like a year or two. Yeah. Editing is a very good way to learn to be a director. If you sit in the cutting room, you see so much about. Well, you really understand what footage you need to collect when you're doing the shoot in order to tell the story when you're in the cutting room, if that makes sense.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm picking up because you see you using a lot of different terms, or we see a lot of different terms on the credit, and I could maybe ask you, we're like, what is the difference? You have the executive producer, then you have the producer, then you have the director. Are they totally different, or do they kind of overlap?
So they do overlap. Okay, so now we're talking about like on American dramatic series like Jack Ryan or Scandal. So yeah, so the directing credit is very specific. It's the last credit that comes up at the front before you. It's written by, then directed by, and then you're in. So that's very specific. The producing credit is very vague and it covers so many different jobs. So when I've been producing director, like I was on Scandal, or a co-exec producer like on Jack Ryan, it means that I was involved in the production in some ways that were more than just directing. So I was there. So it partly represents, to be honest, a bit of extra money that they give you when you get that credit. And so it's the those upfront things, really all they tell you is kind of your seniority, your closeness to the center on a production, if that makes any sense. It doesn't. It means so many things, producer. Um, so it kind of is a bit vague, that. So no, it's not the same thing.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I appreciate you clarifying that. Now, do you have a preference, like writing or directing or producing, or you kind of enjoy all of it?
So the producing is kind of the raising the money and the running of the thing, which is not my thing. Um, directing, absolutely. I'm a director who writes, though, so I like to write to direct. I'm not a writer who directs, if that makes sense. So I love being part of the collaboration that's at the center of the project. Like I really want to get into contributing to the writing and talking with the writer. I love that. But I love the directing because that's the writing is like the score of for the music, or it's like the plans for the building. The directing is when you're actually the orchestra is performing and you're there kind of bringing it all together and giving it that tempo, or you're there with the builders watching the building go up, and that's I love that.
Okay, okay, that's cool. You had mentioned Scandal earlier. That's a huge show. If you could talk about your role in that, and how did you even get connected with that?
So once I got here, I had made a couple of movies in South Africa, so I had to try and find a job on a TV show. That was kind of what I targeted because it would mean I could stay in Los Angeles and be mum to my kids who were small then. So that's kind of a campaign, is trying to get yourself into a show. That's about just reaching out to people, offering to shadow. It's like going to lots of meetings, finding. I found a manager very early on, and my manager was incredible in terms of building a campaign to get me into the room, talking to people who hire directors on TV shows. So once I got in the room, I usually got the job. Um, so my very first gig, I guess, once you've done a few episodic, directing is something you can't really learn except by doing. That's You truly learn it when you're doing it, which is why it's kind of hard to get that gig, because you're being trusted with this big multi-million dollar kind of episode that you're at the helm of, you're driving, and you need to have a certain amount of confidence and nerve and experience. And so trying to get that first one is what's tough because you won't have the experience of doing it, right? So it's a anyway. But by the time I got to Scandal, I'd done a lot, and I had a lot of episodes under my belt, and I really admire Shonda Rhimes and her work and the way her company runs. And I'd asked my agents to get me a meeting there, and so I did get a meeting with Tom Verica, who was then the producing director at Scandal, and told him I wanted to work there. And I think the next season I got one, and then the season after that I got two, and then I ended up replacing Tom on season 7 of Scandal, and that was amazing. Shonda Rhimes is extraordinary. Uh, I love the work environment. It was the first time I felt really comfortable telling other people there that I had kids, because people get nervous if you say you've got kids, because then you're like, oh my God, she's going to run off at the weekend and, not come back because she's looking after her kids or something. But
Wow.
there was a great vibe at Shonda Rhimes' place. Kerry Washington, who was Olivia Pope, had her children while she was on that show, and that's such a supportive environment for women and also people of color. Shonda would never shy away from saying, uh, we need to have much more diversity in the background artists. I want to see a woman in the White House who's wearing a hijab. I really love the way she doesn't stick into old Hollywood and make America look, like it often does on TV. So that was really cool gig.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, I was checking online as well. You got a chance to direct a couple episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, I did.
Wow, iconic. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
So I think I did 2 episodes of Grey's, and it's a very well-run show. It's a very famous show. I mean, it's really a lot of the actors on there are really lovely. Um, I love Jessie, who was on it then. Um, and that's a while ago now, but it's like a family craze. So the actors are very disciplined. The crew know each other. They've been working together for years. So it's kind of a pleasure to work in that context because everyone knows their job and they're very experienced at it. By the time I was directing, I think the first one I did was like season 13 or something. So it was a well embedded show. And yeah,
Right.
it shoots here in LA, which is nice, and really nice people. So
Okay,
that was
okay.
fun. What can I tell you? The,
Right, right. That's
the
such a major show. It's iconic.
What we do on set is often quite boring when you look at it. It kind of moves very slowly, but compared to how it is when it's cut together. But no, I loved working on that show. Yeah,
Right, right. I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes the viewers we take it for granted. We get this maybe 60-minute episode or 30-minute episode, but it's so many pieces that have to come together, hours of takes and footage and cut and director, and you've been consistent in giving us, what we want. So I got to thank you for that.
yeah. It's sometimes like my kids come to set and they're like, "Oh, it's so boring," because it's slow often.
Right. You on the set all day for one episode. So let
Yeah,
me see.
8 or 9 days. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
So on a show like Grey's, you're on set for usually 10. On Scandal, 10 days for one episode. Yeah, we shoot.
Okay, okay. Now I wanted to ask you about not you co-executive produce 911.
So that was again where I was a producing director. So that meant I was there for the whole season, and
Wow.
I would be available to the directors who come in per episode, who I'd be available to make sure that they had the right prep. And so yeah, that's a producing director gig. In that case, I didn't do so much directing. It was more like making sure that the directors were prepared and ready and had everything that they need to make the episode. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Now I gotta ask you, did you get a chance to meet or work with the Queen, Angela
Oh,
Bassett?
yeah. She is the queen. She really is the queen. So I worked with her a lot on 911. And she is humble and professional and just one of the nicest people. Just I don't know if I ever heard her complain. She's very present, really knows her stuff, is knows the crew, she really is the queen. And I say that in a business where there are a lot of people who are the opposite of that.
Right, definitely, definitely. Now, can I ask you, out of all the work that you have done and contributed to and been a part of, do you have a favorite project?
I mean, that's so hard because you learn something and love something from everyone. But things I'm most proud of are the work I did on the Truth Commission special report. I think that's still, that those stories we put together from the Truth Commission, people still refer to as a historical document. And I'm so glad we got to help people tell those stories and spread them. I think White Wedding is my baby. That film was blessed and I love. In terms of the work I've done here, there's so many different ones. I loved working on Jack Ryan recently because I love working on action. Um, and I loved the big problems that we had to solve and the scope of it. And I loved working with Wendell Pierce, who's an angel. And Betty Gabriel, too, was on that show from Get Out. Um, uh, I loved working on a show like SWAT, for instance, just because it's so well run and well written, and it's just kind of a pleasure to be in a machine that runs so well. Um, and that because it's run so well, they get so much done. You can achieve a lot. You can solve problems. You can shoot a lot. That show I got to work with just one of the best stunt teams I've ever worked with. I think they even won an Emmy for their SWAT crew. So every show's different. Every show you take something, you know. On Scandal, I love the fact, we were living through the end of the Obama years and going into the Trump years, and the way that Shonda Rhimes wrote that in, and I love that writing and the way that Kerry Washington could do those speeches. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah, there's a range of, but I think I don't know. I've still got work in me, so let's see.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely look forward to what you're working on and what you got coming up in the future. I know you had mentioned you was doing some things in South Africa. Do you have any other upcoming projects that you could talk about, or is that it?
So that's the closest one. That's the one that's kind of at script stage. And I'm kind of superstitious about talking about things that aren't yet made. But no, now that the this period of the strike is coming to an end, I'll be back working on television as well. So uh with the bookings are just beginning. So I'm not sure where I'll go, but hopefully onto some fun stuff. There's a lot. It's going to be a very busy time the next few months, kind of just with bookings, because everything's starting at the same time. So it's kind of nice for me because I might get to pick and choose a bit.
Okay, okay, that's good news. Then you say the strike
Yeah,
is coming to an end. Now I
yeah,
got maybe like one last question.
yeah.
Now you actually write books. You have books that are available.
I did write some books a long time ago.
Oh, okay,
When I
okay.
was when I was trying to get into directing, and I wrote two novels that are set in South Africa, Heartland and Southern Cross. I'm sure they're out of print now. I wrote a children's book that I love, that I wish it's in print. I think it's even a textbook in South Africa. It's called Home is Where You Find It. But I know you might be able to find it on the net, but it's not available in bookstores.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, you got enough work to keep us busy, the viewers and myself. I want to thank you so much again for coming on the platform. I know you got moves to make, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the viewers as well.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
yes.
It was good to meet you. I love your last name.
Thank
Uhuru.
you, thank you. Right, you know what it means.
I do. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
right, then.
All right.
Well,
Take care.
yep. Until next time, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's been a great episode of Taye Speaks. Peace.